The family that buried Marcus Garvey, before Seaga dug him up. A SkyWalker address for the Jamaica Bulletin Board archive. Jamaica has many heroes but only one prophet. Marcus Mosiah Garvey was not just a man, he was a movement, a vibration, a spiritual compass for black sovereignty across continents. Yet in the land of his birth, Garvey was not honored in life. He was not uplifted in death. He was buried, not just in London soil but in Jamaican silence. And the ones who buried him? They weren't strangers. They were kin, cousins, sons, rulers. The political dynasty of Bustamante, Norman Manley, and Michael Manley, three men who governed Jamaica from opposite sides of the political fence, but danced to the same colonial rhythm when it came to Garvey and Rastafari. This is not a speech of accusation. It is a ritual of restoration. Today we name the betrayal, decode the sorcery, and honor the man who dug Garvey up, not by bloodline but by choice. Let us begin with the bloodline. Alexander Bustamante and Norman Manley were cousins, both descended from Elsie Hunter. Their shared ancestry did not prevent them from ruling Jamaica as rivals, but when it came to Marcus Garvey, they were aligned in silence. Bustamante, the populist, presided over some of the most brutal crackdowns against Rastafari. Beatings, arrests, public humiliation. His disdain was overt. He saw Rasta as a threat to order and Garvey as a threat to control. Norman Manley, the legalist, clashed with Garvey in 1934 over a gas station dispute, but the real fight was ideological. Norman was a Rhodes Scholar, trained in British law and colonial diplomacy. Garvey was a radical, a visionary, a man who spoke of black sovereignty and African redemption. Norman chose empire over uprising. And when Garvey died, Norman said nothing. No tribute, no honor, just silence. Michael Manley, Norman's son, inherited not just political power, but spiritual proximity. He did not openly attack Garvey. He did something more dangerous. He eclipsed him. Michael Manley was charismatic. He spoke in liberation tones. He traveled to Ethiopia and received a rod from Haile Selassie, a ritual object revered by Rastafari. He returned to Jamaica and claimed to be Joshua with the rod of correction. The people bowed. The Rastas rejoiced. They saw him as a bridge between Babylon and Zion. But beneath the surface, a different ritual was unfolding. Michael allegedly borrowed Garvey's manifesto, his economic blueprint, his social vision, and used it to build political traction. He spoke of equality, of empowerment, of justice. But he did not credit Garvey. He did not implement Garvey's model of black economic independence. Instead, he built a pork barrel system, state dependency, handouts, contracts for loyalty. The rod was not correction. It was control. This was sorcery. Not in the mystical sense but in the symbolic. Michael kept Rasta close, praised Haile Selassie, and wore the cloak of liberation. But he did not walk with Garvey. He walked over him. The rise of political gangs and destabilization. Michael Manley did not twin politics with ganja. He twinned it with gangs. In the 1970s, partisan violence exploded. Communities became garrisons, political enclaves ruled by party-aligned bad men. Elections were no longer contests of ideas. They were battles of firepower. Allegiances were rewarded with housing, contracts, and protection. The ballot box was guarded by gunmen. This mirrored colonial tactics used in Africa, proxy violence to maintain control. The illusion of democracy masked a ritual of fear. And the people paid the price. Jamaica's democracy was never designed to be peaceful. It was designed to be manageable. And the blueprint? It wasn't Jamaican. It was British. Edward Seaga, the outsider who became the gatekeeper. Now we turn to the man who broke the silence. Edward Seaga. Born in Boston, Seaga was not Jamaican by birth. But he became Jamaican by choice. He renounced his U.S. citizenship without coaxing. He fell in love with the culture, the music, the spirit. And he did what the bloodline refused to do. He honored Marcus Garvey. In 1964, Seaga led the effort to repatriate Garvey's body from London. He organized a national ceremony. 30,000 people attended. Trees were covered in bodies, witnesses to a resurrection. Seaga delivered a tribute that framed Garvey not as a Jamaican figure, but as a global prophet. Garvey's stage was not Jamaica, it was the continents of colored peoples. He enshrined Garvey as Jamaica's first national hero. He built the shrine that the dynasty refused to build. He gave Garvey a place in the national pantheon. Seaga didn't inherit Jamaica. He chose it. And he chose to honor the prophet. The archive must speak. Today Marcus Garvey is taught in schools, but not enough. His legacy is referenced, but not revered. His vision is quoted, but not implemented. The family that buried him still casts shadows over Jamaica's political imagination. Bustamante is remembered as a labor hero, Norman as a founding father, Michael as a liberator. But none of them lifted Garvey. None of them built the shrine. None of them carried the rod with truth. Edward Seaga, the outsider, did more for Garvey's legacy than the bloodline ever did. And that contradiction must be named. Not to shame, but to restore. Marcus Garvey was not defeated by bullets. He was buried by silence, by kin, by dynasty, by ritual omission. Michael Manley did not honor Garvey. He absorbed his power, claimed his mantle, and used it to build a system that weakened the very sovereignty Garvey preached. Bustamante brutalized Rasta. Norman ignored Garvey's death. Michael borrowed Garvey's fire but never built the furnace. Edward Seaga, born in Boston, became the gatekeeper of Garvey's shrine. He chose Jamaica. He chose truth. He chose to dig up the prophet that the bloodline buried. Let the archive speak. Let the record be restored. Let the silence be broken. Marcus Garvey lives, not because Jamaica remembered him but because one man refused to forget. Archive that.